I have conversations with so many people who are working so hard. They deserve the results they're looking for. And they're doing all of the things that they know possibly how to do with. It's not that they're lazy. It's not that their why isn't strong enough. It's not that they're broken. It's not their metabolism. It is they are on an incomplete plan. Like they are living in the land of eat less, move more, work harder, and then they're shocked that they can't get to where they want to be when all of the other pieces that make a plan doable, functional, and sustainable and practical and actually gives them the results that they want, the plan doesn't touch all these pieces. So I put together this list, these 8 things showing you, and these are signs that you're on the wrong plan. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to a brand new episode of Dieting from the Inside Out. If you are new around here, welcome to the show. My name is Jared Hamilton and I'm your host. And if my voice sounds a little bit different today, I am actually a little bit under the weather. I've been sick for about the last 5 or 6 days. And I've been waiting to record another episode, but I don't know how long I'm going to be sick and I don't want to delay anything just because I sound a little bit deeper. And if you're watching the YouTube, my dog just smacked my tripod, so the camera was shaking real hard. But anyway, we are here nonetheless. So I appreciate your patience with me, but let's dive in. In today's episode, I am going to show you the 8 signs you are on the wrong diet or plan. So this concept hit me out of nowhere the other day. It was probably because I was in the middle of having a bunch of conversations. I'm always in my DMs. I'm always in my messages, always in these different formats, talking to clients, collective members, people on Instagram, emails, the everything. And I just see this super common issue that of these checkpoints, if you will, of that you're on the wrong plan. I see so many people every single day. I have conversations with so many people who are working so hard. They deserve the results they're looking for. And they're doing all of the things that they know possibly how to do with. It's not that they're lazy. It's not that their why isn't strong enough. It's not that they're broken. It's not their metabolism. It is they are on an incomplete plan. Like they are living in the land of eat less, move more, work harder, and then they're shocked that they can't get to where they want to be when all of the other pieces that make a plan doable, functional, and sustainable and practical and actually gives them the results that they want, the plan doesn't touch all these pieces. So I put together this list, these 8 things showing you, and these are signs that you're on the wrong plan. These 8 specific things. So whatever plan you're following, whatever plan you're on, you may go, oh, my plan doesn't address that. Oh, my plan doesn't do that. Oh, my plan doesn't even talk about that. Oh, my plan doesn't address that. And then it's no wonder that what you're doing isn't working, or why you might get results for a little while or the scale will drop, but then something happens, you always gain your weight back. So that's what we're going to get into. So if you aren't subscribed to the show, please do that. It helps me a ton. It helps other people a ton because the more subscribers we have and the more people that are following the show, the more it works the show up the rankings and helps more people. So be sure and subscribe to the show. If you have not left a review yet, please do that. Those help more than you know. But nonetheless, let's dive in. So 8 signs you're on the wrong plan. Sign number 1. I've got my phone here. I'm going to try to keep track and stay on task. Sign number 1 is that it doesn't fix your overall inner game. So the whole concept of this show is called Dieting from the Inside Out, where we take a very inner game and deep-rooted cause approach from a psychological perspective to cause transformation to happen. So in the world of what I would call the final fat loss solution, I actually had a little mini ebook I sold on this, whereas the whole concept though is you have to go below the surface. But the problem is most people's plans are all above the surface stuff. I had someone just signed up for coaching 2 days ago to work privately with me. And she just came off a coaching experience with someone else and they didn't address her inner game at all. And she was saying that she spent the last, however long with these people and she's still stuck because they never addressed the actual root cause of what was being approached. So they were giving her calorie stuff, macro stuff, workout stuff, these kind of things, but they never got underneath the hood. They never got underneath the surface of things like her relationship with food, things like how she handles things emotionally, things like her belief systems and her mindset and her, the psychological side. So at the end of the day, this is what I see all the time because outer work without inner work doesn't work. You could have all of the fat loss, fitness, nutrition, macros, recipes, numbers. You can have all that stuff in place. You can have your hormones dialed in, but until you go deep, until you uncover the shit that makes you uncomfortable, until you grow downward, you'll never have long-lasting success. Like think of it like a tree. Like a tree's ability to live a really long time relies on what? How deep the roots go. Big tree, deeper roots. More branches, deeper roots. More apples or oranges or whatever's on the tree, deeper roots. If you want to have a tree that produces a lot of results, a lot of fruit, you have to have enough roots to bring forth the nutrients, to bring up everything that needs to happen to make the tree successful and to be plentiful and all those things. Well, how deep are you going? Right? Because the problem is you're probably following a bunch of like Fitspo people who have never had issues going on. A lot of the people like the fitness influencer era that most people follow, they follow people who don't ever have deep stuff going on. So it's why like Big Booty Judy on Instagram who sells glute guides or ripped shredded Tony who just has ab workouts all the time. It's like, yeah, they can just eat less, move more, work harder because they don't have kids. They didn't have childhood trauma around their nutrition or food or anything of like that nature. They don't have kids and all they do is work out every day and their whole focus is their body. So yeah, of course their stuff isn't going to quite hit the mark for you. And again, my goal on here is not to come on here and shit talk everyone else or anything like that. That's not how I roll. But there is a profound amount of pieces that are missing with most people that I talk about. Because if you have all of the pieces of your pie in check, everything operates beautifully. But think of it this way. Let's say like I'm looking across the room at my desk. My desk has a ton of screws, right? There are so many screws that are holding up that desk. But if I all of a sudden pull down all the screws, well, the desk would fall. But like no one thinks about the screws, right? Or there's the screws that aren't that in spots that are easily seen, but they hold everything together. They hold the top on the base. But if I went in and loosened every screw, my desk would wobble like crazy. Kind of like your results are wobbling like crazy because you got a lot of loose screws. Or you might have screws that are completely absent in your plan, like this one, the inner game issues. You may be living in the land of only tracking calories and working out really hard and give zero regard to anything else, your mental side, your emotional side, your psychological side, that where things started in your childhood, your relationship with food, your relationship with your body, your thought process. If you don't address these parts of you, it's no wonder they manifest on the surface. I mean, you do realize that the majority of your day-to-day is subconscious. You're 85, 90% on autopilot every day. Well, you're on autopilot to what? You're on autopilot to your old conditioning, your belief systems, your inner game. So if your plan doesn't bring into the mental and psychological approach and have frameworks and specifics that are going to help get you to where you want to be from an inner game perspective, it's no wonder things on the surface don't last. So that is the first sign that you're on the wrong plan, is that your plan or diet or whatever does not address your inner game. And there's all these different pieces to your inner game. Okay. Number 2, I'm going to get some flack on this one. Red flag number 2 or sign number 2 that you're on the wrong diet or plan is your plan doesn't address some of the childhood stuff that went on. Like guys, most people that I work with are blown away to find out whenever someone joins my coaching group, the collective, or we get into one-on-one, that most people I work with, we bring up childhood stuff. I have this concept of inner child work that I have people do when it comes to weight loss stuff, because if you have a level of trauma, a level of an impact, a level of any of these deeper stuff that went down when you were little, that's causing the problems with you not being able to get to where you want to be now. Right? People tell me every day, they're like, I went to my Weight Watchers meetings with my mom at 10 or 11. I remember only seeing my mom freak out on the scale and throw a temper tantrum and then ruin the rest of the day. I remember hearing my mom tell me all the time, they'd scold me one moment for eating, but then shame me the next moment for not eating. You have to understand, if you have a lot of these issues, and we'll call it baggage or whatever you want to call it, from your childhood, if we don't address those, it's always going to come back to the surface. Here's why. Because at the end of the day, you still have that operating system. You still have that operating system going on under the surface. Whenever something happened in your childhood around like nutrition or weight loss or whatever, you had this part of you come out to protect you, In family systems, they call it the protector. And then that is now your pattern that has been operating on autopilot ever since. Like you, for example, let's say a common one I see is, let's say your parents got a divorce when you were little, a 6-year-old you didn't know how to handle it, so you found emotional eating to help you cope because that was your highest when you were 6. Well, you may now still be struggling with emotional eating, but you may be 55 because that pattern never got rewritten. That pattern never got addressed. So it makes sense as to why you're still struggling with it. But the more calorie restriction, the more deprivation, the more good you do on your diet, it still never fixes it because it didn't affect the inner game, but it didn't specifically get into the childhood side of your plan. So at the end of the day, if we do not address where these issues stem from, it's no wonder they will keep following you and haunting you almost over time. I'm telling you, the vast majority of people that I work with, all their issues started when they were little. That's when emotional eating started. That's where all their relationship with food stuff started. I mean, a lot of people, maybe even you listening, found my podcast from my child videos on Instagram where I'm like doing those weird, funny skits where it reenacted a lot of your guys' childhood. And you go, oh my gosh, that's me. Exactly. So if you are not addressing that part of things, if you are not going there, it's no wonder you never make it. You have to complete the puzzle. And most people, childhood stuff is part of that puzzle. But this is the part of going back to the whole inner game thing from number one, is most people's plan don't even go deep with their emotions, let alone childhood issues, and know how to handle it. I was talking with, I was being interviewed on another coach's podcast, and he said, man, you touch the stuff most other coaches won't touch with a 10-foot pole. And I go, exactly. It's why I work with a lot, to be honest, most people who work with me or find my neck of the woods or end up joining one of my programs, I am not someone's first coach. Most people are like, man, this is the last time I'm trying this. I've tried this for years. I've spent thousands of dollars on challenges and other coaches and trainers, and I'm not getting to where I want to be. I go, I get it. It's because most people don't address these deeper things and what's going on. So that's why at the end of the day, we have to address all these parts of you. Otherwise, it's no wonder that it never works out. So that's why number 2, as far as you're following the wrong plan, is if you have these childhood things where the stuff was happening at, if we don't go there, it's no wonder that's not working long-term. Okay. Number 3, again, we're talking about 8 signs that you're on the wrong diet or plan, or 8 things that your plan is missing. Number 3 is it doesn't touch the emotional side. So I don't know, this might help and give you an idea. I think at bare minimum, a plan, like think of like a circle with a pie on it. Most people think the results are just about are about the workout and food. It's like eat less, move more. So it's a pie divided down the center. I actually see it divided into 4 ways. I see a pie of result. It's one of those quarters, one of those squares, or the one piece is movement. We'll call it workouts. One quarter is nutrition. Like your how much you're eating, nutrition, all that stuff. The other quarter is your mental side, and the other quarter is your emotional side. Because if you are just working out and eating, just eat less, move more. Well, the problem is what controls those things? Well, it's your mindset, the way you believe, and then the emotional part. If we're hiding from things we feel, well, then we have to address those. So if your plan is missing a mental and emotional side, we have to address that. So that's why I think it should be at least at bare minimum in quarters of, let's say, nutrition, movement, mental, and emotional. Because at the end of the day, and I'm going to open this up even more, but you have to have at least bare minimum of that, because this is where I get into this point. Number 3 is your plan doesn't address your emotional side. I'll talk about this here more soon, but there's a massive difference between the mental and the emotional. Right? Emotions are the things you feel. Mental things are like belief systems and the mindset and things you can actually challenge and change. But the emotions have to be processed differently. We can't intellectualize a feeling. So we have to feel our feelings. So this is why most people's plan don't touch the emotional side. So I would ask, how do you handle yourself emotionally? How do you regulate yourself and your emotions separately from food? Or let me say this, separately from distractions. Most people's plans are entirely based on distractions. If you emotionally eat, it's because you are distracting with food the things that you feel. You're using food to escape, right? Another one that's really common is actually training. A lot of people will go, oh, I haven't ran. Oh, I'm feeling super anxious. I need to go run. I'm not saying you can't have an outlet for certain emotions, and with working out or training or running or exercise or things like that, I think it's great to get that energy out. But at the end of the day, if we are using exercise as a tool to suppress or distract, we have issues. We have to address this deeper part and handle these emotions separately from food. This is why everyone I work with inside the collective, I'm a big framework guy. Here's the framework for when you feel stressed. Here's the framework for when you feel these issues coming up. Here's how we handle this. Here's how we handle this. So this way you can actually take these emotions and do something with them. Emotions are just energy in motion. And your emotions are, the way I think of it, kind of like digestion. I stole this analogy from my guy, Kyle Cease, who I've done an episode with him a little whiles back. But think of it like going to the bathroom. If you feel the urge to go to the bathroom, you go, ooh, something is in and it needs to come out. So you go sit on the toilet, hold space, and it goes through you. Your emotions are no different. But how often do you feel something, let's say anxiety or stress or sadness, and you go, nope, I don't want to be with this. This means I'm a failure. This feels like it did when I was a child. So nope, I'm going to go hide this with food. Well, imagine if you did that with digestion. Imagine if you ate some bad chicken and you're like, and you've got food poisoning. You go, I need to go to the bathroom. And you go, ooh, nope, I don't want to feel this. This isn't good. And you go distract. Well, it's going to get really messy really quickly. It's no wonder why you feel mentally and emotionally messy. And then it somehow translates to your physical progress. Because if you hide your emotions with food, you end up overeating. It's where emotional eating and stress eating comes from. So we have to make sure we're handling these things from an inside out approach, I should say. So if your plan is not giving you frameworks and strategies and tactics on emotions and what to do with these emotions, we have problems. Most coaches I hear, they're like, well, just go on a walk, or, just be more mindful. Nothing pisses me off more than hearing another coach telling someone who struggles with their emotions or emotional eating to just be more mindful. That's like telling someone sad to just be happy. Like, no fucking shit. We need to have complete frameworks and strategies in place for what to do with these emotions. It's why I'm huge on journaling. It's why I'm huge on meditation. It's why I'm huge on breath work. It's why I'm huge on specific strategies that work for your life to actually regulate your emotions and actually let you feel them. Because I'll put it this way, you're not going to regulate your emotions without feeling. You have to feel. That's why they call it feeling is healing. And apparently I can't talk today. And if you go through a long history of suppressing your emotions and not feeling them, you become what we call emotionally numb. And then people do crazy things to feel. Do you see where I'm going with this? So this is why if your plan is not allowing frameworks and specifics for holding space and feeling through your emotions and regulating your nervous system, actually regulating and not just hiding it with working out, then we have problems. Okay, that's number 3. Number 4, as far as the signs that you're on the wrong plan, your plan doesn't address or fix your patterns. So this is where it gets tied into like subconscious stuff and kind of some of the mental sides of things. But most people, and most coaches and programs are just like, just don't eat that, or just don't do that, or just do this, or work harder. The problem is most of our bad habits are ingrained from a pattern perspective when we were little. That's why it goes back to that whole childhood thing. Because if your patterns are all deep rooted from when you were a kid and when you were just little and defenseless and didn't know any better, and you picked up these patterns from your parents or from school or from kids or from wherever they came from, if you don't address them on the pattern level, it's no wonder you end up sabotaging. I was just chatting with someone the other day who's working with a coach, and they said, so-and-so coach is just the kind of, just don't eat that. Well, just don't eat that. Well, just don't eat that. And that is like the depth of how they were teaching this person. Well, the problem is if you have a pattern of eating that, if you have a pattern where once you start, you can't stop, if you have a pattern of hiding your emotions with food, if you have a pattern of throwing in the towel as soon as the scale spikes, if you have a pattern of sabotage, just telling you don't do that is not helpful. That's why in my program, I have what's called the stopping sabotage method, where we actually have this multiple step process in order to fix these patterns that have come up for you. Because just understanding it's a pattern, and it's not like a willpower thing. It's not that you're broken. It's not that you suck at discipline. It's not that you can't be consistent. It's not that you're mentally weak. It's that you haven't approached it from a pattern perspective. If you have a subconscious pattern that goes and goes and goes without even you thinking about it, or dare I say it's been going so far where you feel uncontrolled, it's not just a willpower, let's just stop this thing. We need to have systems and processes in place. Like I think it was in James Clear's book, it's back here somewhere, it's called Atomic Habits, where we fall to the level of our systems. So if you don't have a system for all of these things, we're going to have issues. This is why if I have any clients or collective members listening to this, This should be really reinforcing what I teach to you guys, is because you go, oh yeah, Jared has a framework for that, a system for that, a strategy for that, or a set of events for that. Because if we don't have that we can pull from, it's no wonder when left to your own devices, you go back to the old familiar, which is suffering and struggle and spiraling. So this is why if your plan, program, diet, whatever you want to call it, is not addressing things from a pattern perspective, it's no wonder you always find yourself back in those patterns. You see what I mean? Hopefully this is making sense. Next, number 5, for signs that you're on the wrong diet or plan, or things that it's missing, is it doesn't have the mental side. Here's one of the biggest differences between, for me at least, the way that I think about it, mental and emotional, is emotions are all feelings. You're just feeling things. Emotions come up, triggers happen, you feel something, you need to process, regulate it, and feel it. We don't want to deny emotions. We need to regulate and hold space and feel through them. The mental side for me is belief systems. It is things that can be challenged and things that can be changed. Like if you feel sadness, we don't want to go, no, you're not sad. No, you need to allow yourself to be sad. Now, where people go wrong is they have an emotional thing come up or a trigger come up and they have a feeling, then they put a belief to it and they establish a meaning around it. That's where like it kind of gets gray. But the mental side is different, because at the end of the day, your subconscious mind goes to work unconsciously on validating and finding evidence to support your beliefs. So for example, it's why if you believe weight loss is going to be hard for you, you find every way to make it true. It's why if you feel too far gone, you'll actually be making progress, but you'll convince yourself you aren't making progress because you're too far gone to fulfill that belief system. You have this thing in your brain. It's called your reticular activating system. Look it up. Some argue it's part of the subconscious mind, but it sits down by your brainstem where it's your filter on life. It's why whenever you buy a new car, you see it everywhere. It's why if you watch a scary movie, you notice your house lights flicker all of a sudden more than they normally have, or the house is creakier or feels creepy. It's because your brain is now aware of this and it goes, ooh, let's look for those things more. It's why if you also sell that car that you now saw everywhere and you bought something totally different, you quit seeing it and now you see the new one. It's because if your brain had full access to every single piece of stimuli in your day-to-day, you would go psychotic. So this is its kind of filing system, so to speak. Well, if you don't fix your own filing system and your own beliefs and your own mentalities, you're going to be destined to be stuck where you're at. I had someone tell me recently, they said, well, Jared, this is just who I am. I go, yeah, maybe that's the problem. I go, well, Jared, I'm just the kind of person that once I start, I can't stop. I go, exactly, that's the problem. You actually think that's who you are. So if we stay who we are, this version of yourself, this once I start, I can't stop, you'll never get self-control. We have to become a different person. Dr. Joe Dispenza says it best. We have to create a new personality before we can have a new personality. Too often we're trying to get a new personal reality without changing our personality. But that's like a kid that says, oh, I'm a horrible student trying to expect good grades. No, you have to become a good student that gets good grades. This is why I'm such a big identity person. We have to figure out who you believe you are from an identity perspective, because you don't just get to lose weight. You have to become someone who loses the weight, because who you are now is responsible for the results on your person currently. So you have to become someone new. So if you struggle with binge eating, we have to let go of the identity of being a binger. Because if your identity is, no, I'm Beth the binger, it's no wonder you subconsciously find yourself back to binge eating. Or I'm Peter the procrastinator. Well, it's no wonder you find yourself unconsciously putting things off. It's no wonder when you find yourself like, oh, we'll stay in the theme, Esther the emotional eater. Well, it's no wonder you find yourself, after doing well for a little while, you find reasons to go back to suppressing your emotions with food. So this is why the solution is we have to become a different person. We have to change our mindset. We have to think about mindset. It's where the setting is at from a mind perspective. Where is your mind currently set at? Is it currently set in terms of the story that you play over and over again? What is that? Is the narrative in your head of I'm a victim? I'm just like this. This is just who I am. I'll always gain the weight back. How many times have you ever like fallen off a plane and go, I knew that was going to happen? That's a mindset issue. That is a belief system problem, because it's the story and the narrative that you craft that you believe into your core. So if you don't change these belief systems, this is why whenever I work with someone, one of the first pieces of work we do is fixes what they believe. We have to fix their identity about themselves, about fat loss, about whatever's going on, the meanings that they establish. For example, if you struggle with emotional eating, it's because you have a meaning that I don't like these emotions. I don't want to be with them. We have to fix the belief system that these emotions aren't bad, that these emotions are not bad, that we have to actually allow ourselves to be with them. Hopefully this is making sense. I know this is a little bit different. It's kind of in the weeds, but I really think this is going to help a lot of people. So if your plan is not addressing your mindset and the beliefs, the stories, the narratives that you have, then it's no wonder your results are going to be short-lived. Because if your belief systems are on a, let's say on a scale of 1 to 10 or a 2, and I give you level 10 results, your level 2 brain will sabotage back down to that 2. It's like your thermostat on the wall. I learned this from Ed Milet. Whereas if your thermostat is set at a 70 and the room heats up to 80, the thermostat will cool the room back off because it's not where it's set at. Your identity and belief systems are the same way. If you believe you're a 6, let's say a 6, and this is just who you are, and you get 10 results, it's no wonder your 6 version of yourself sabotages to cool the room back off. One of the biggest reasons we sabotage isn't only pattern driven, it is belief driven. Because most people's results are out way ahead of who they believe they are or what they're worthy of or what they deserve and these kind of things. And so it's no wonder they are their own self-fulfilling prophecy. So that's why number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is your plan has to address your mental side. So if your plan doesn't address it, you're probably going to fail. Next, signs that you're on the wrong plan or diet or coach or whatever you want to call it is it's not sustainable long-term. It is mind-boggling to me, the amount of people who are on plans that they know are not going to work long-term. They're like, well, I'm just the kind of person that if I don't see results right away, I'm not going to be in this long-term, or I'm going to lose interest. Well, that's an identity issue. That's the problem because you're the kind of person that, and then you said that limitation. By the way, before we move on to this one, that's a really good tester for you. How many times do you say, I'm a blank, or I'm just the kind of person that blank, and it's actually a limitation? Because if your identity is based in limitations, you will be on a forever uphill battle. Okay, moving on with this not sustainable long-term. You have to understand if you want results to be sustainable and long-lasting, your plan has to be sustainable and long-lasting. You do not get forever results with temporary approaches. So you have to look at yourself, even though you won't be dieting for the next decade, ideally. Could you do it though? Whatever your plan is you're on, could you do it for the next decade and still enjoy your life? If the answer is no, then we need to overhaul it because it's not sustainable. You should go, oh yeah, that shouldn't be that big of a deal at all. Cool, we're in the right spot. Because there's a lot of people who are doing plans that they know is just you're a time clock before falling off. And then you're shocked that the results go with it. But like imagine this, like the amount of people I hear say, well, I followed the keto diet, but then as soon as I started eating carbs back, I gained my weight back. I couldn't believe it. Or I got on Ozempic. I felt great. My food noise went away. But as soon as I got off Ozempic, all of my cravings and food noise and weight gain came back. Or, oh, I started eating 1,200 calories a day, but then as soon as I went back to normal, my results are I lost all my results and I gained all my weight back. I'm sorry, but no shit. Are you surprised if you quit going to work, you quit getting paid? Are you surprised if you quit cleaning your house, it gets dirty? Are you surprised that if you quit prioritizing your relationship, you guys drift apart? Are you surprised that if you have a skill and you quit doing that skill, the result or the skill is rusty when you go back to it? Of course not. It's no different. If you want results that stick, you have to have some semblance of actions that are in alignment with those goals that stick. If your plan is making you look forward to going back to normal, you have so much wrong going on, it's not even funny. Your plan isn't sustainable, your belief systems are a mess, and you probably have a lot of relationship with food and yourself issues going on. If you are looking forward to going back to normal, I should say, because that your normal's the problem. This is why I got ripped apart one day, not ripped apart, but I got ridiculed a lot on Instagram recently when I made a post. I said that your diet food and regular food shouldn't be any different. The portions are just changed. And people are like, no, you should absolutely be different. And I go, I disagree. Because if you're dieting and you are all super rigid and extreme, and then you go back to normal and you're eating like a complete asshole with zero regard to health and nutrition, well, it's no wonder you're going to be in limbo for your whole life. The whole concept was, this is why when you are dieting and trying to lose weight, you should be prioritizing whole foods, but still making sure you have moderation in your favorite foods frequently so you don't feel like you're missing out on anything. But this also means when you are not dieting or not trying to lose weight, you should still be eating mostly whole foods and prioritizing protein. This is just who you are now. Your normal is the issue. This is why imagine a student who needs to get their grades up, thinking they're only going to study their ass off until they graduate the next grade, then they get to go back to normal and be lazy. No, their normal is the problem. This is why most people need to simply, what I call, raise their floor. Your best days are good enough. You don't need your best days better. We just need your floor metaphorically raised, because that's where the true problem is at. Your floor gets too low and causes you to fall off. Your best days are good enough. Raise your floor. Hopefully this is making sense. So that's why this big issue in this grand scheme of this list is that you're on the wrong plan, is that your plan isn't sustainable. If you cannot do it for the next decade of your life, it's not worth doing for 10 days. Okay. Almost done. Number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Number 7 is signs that you're on the wrong plan is it doesn't account or adjust for bad days. So I have a lot of people, what made me put this one on the list is I've been having a lot of conversations with people. And a lot of these people have been saying, they're like, well, I did good. I was doing great until the holidays hit, or I was doing great until my husband lost his job and then my stuff went to hell, or I was doing great until life got busy. Or the amount of people who say, oh, Jared, I need to wait to start this program until life slows down, or I have too much going on to focus on this right now. Well, that's the problem. It goes back to the belief systems. That tells me you have a plan that's not sustainable and isn't good for, isn't adaptable for when you have bad days. Here's why I say that is that goes back to, you probably have an all or nothing pattern in belief system that we need to work through, because you may be thinking, oh, if I can't be all in, I'm all out. Well, that's the issue. Could you imagine doing that with your job? Imagine going, oh, it's the holidays, I can't go into work because life is too busy. Or imagine like you're a parent and you say, oh, I can't take care of my kids because it's too busy at work right now and I can't prioritize them at all. If I can't prioritize them I don't want to prioritize them at all. Or if you're like, it's a rough time right now, so I'm not going to feed my dog. It's like, no, the things that you prioritize in life, you always make work around it. Now, I'm not saying to be irresponsible and have priorities out of whack. But I'm saying is, if you are constantly waiting to fix these things until life slows down or waiting until life is perfect, then you'll get on track, make some results, and then you'll lose them all as soon as life goes south. But wouldn't you rather have results that are good in all seasons? I mean, imagine how great it would feel if you knew that you could not be shaken. Any holiday, any life event, any catastrophic thing could happen and you're untouchable. This is why my favorite time to work with people in coaching is right around like the last quarter of the year. You got Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, travel, lots of money spent. You have all sorts of things going on, because if I can get someone bulletproof during then, they're good for the rest of their life. Because this is showing, it's basically telling your brain who's in charge. Because if you're always like, oh, I can't put 110% of my attention on that, I'm not going to put any on that. Well, it says you're a victim to your reality. That might upset some of you, but I'm here to help you, not just tell you what you want to hear. Because are you in charge of your life or not? Because you don't do that for work. You work around your life to make work. Same thing with your kids. Same thing with even stuff that's not that important. Same thing with your favorite Netflix series. Same thing with shopping. Same thing with alcohol. Same thing with scrolling on TikTok. Same thing with whatever your go-to things that you value are. But the problem is most people have, again, it goes back to this all or nothing thinking. They're like, oh, Jared, you don't get it. You don't have kids. You don't have this. You don't have this. You don't have this. I go, well, I've spent the last almost decade and a half coaching people like that, though. And the thing that I've found that reigns true is we prioritize what we value. And most people don't value these things. And then we find ways to validate in devaluing them. We find ways to validate devaluing them. Like, oh, I'm an all or nothing person, so I might as well not even try. Well, you got to eat to live. So why can't we make subtle tweaks in your nutrition so you can still make progress, even if you can't get to the gym right now because work is double overtime? Like I was just working with someone recently who she literally brought me on to fix her all or nothing mentality, and she in her extremism patterns and tendencies. And she said her MO is, as soon as things aren't perfect, she throws out the entire plan. So what happened was she hurt her back at her job and life got super busy. So she couldn't do her workouts. So she wanted to throw her nutrition away. And I go, wait a second. Of course, that's the pattern, but how much sense does that make logically? What if we just said, cool, I'm not going to do my workouts, but I'm going to do my best with my nutrition? That went so ass backwards against that pattern, but that's what we did. And it fixed it because that was a new neural pathway we developed. But for her, that felt so uncomfortable because she'd always, once she starts, she can't stop, all or nothing person. If she can't follow every piece of the program perfect, she doesn't even want to try at all. Well, we have to undo that. It goes back to the inner game issues, the pattern issues, the belief issues. That was like 3 different things on this list. So this is why if your plan doesn't have adaptations for when life gets crazy, busy, wild, and unpredictable, you're on the wrong plan. We need to match these specifics for other areas in your life you're successful with, your job, your kids, your hobbies, your whatever. We need to make this the exact same way. I hope this is making sense. I know I'm being a little bit under the weather. I feel like I'm not as clear as in communication as I normally am, but I still want to come on here and do this. All right, last one. Well, we kind of already touched on this one a little bit. The other sign that your plan isn't the right one for you is if it's not adaptable. So one of the things I teach in my programs is like this concept of list A, list B, where instead of being on or off, my thing is, well, it's this or that. What if we had like backup plans if the normal plan isn't doable? Or what frameworks can we put in place to make the plan adaptable when life kicks you in the face? I can't tell you how many clients and people that I've worked with that this person died and they had to take over all the responsibilities of that. Or I have a client who's getting ready to go to Taiwan. She's in a different country like every month and she travels crazy stuff for work. Or let's say you're doing great, but then 4 of your 6 kids get sick. These kind of things. Life happens and curveballs hit. And if your plan is not adaptable and can roll with the punches, we have a problem. And you're on the wrong plan. This is why so many people live and die by like meal plans and rigid systems. And it's kind of like a tightrope vibe. Well, the problem with tightropes is if you make one mistake, you die. Versus I like to approach it in terms of guardrails, whereas you have a lot more moving pieces. You have a lot more leeway so you don't die. So if your plan is not adaptable, then it's no wonder you're struggling and going to end up failing when you're not perfect. But again, having an adaptable plan goes against that all or nothing belief system, that pattern you developed, and so on. So you see how these kind of interweave with each other? So I'm going to run through them all real quick. So here, these are the 8 signs you're on the wrong diet or plan as we wrap up. 8 signs is number 1, you don't fix your inner game. You don't touch the deep stuff. Number 2, your plan doesn't address childhood issues where your stuff stems from. Number 3, it doesn't touch the emotional side because most people act on their emotions. Number 4, it doesn't address or fix your patterns from a deep-rooted side of things with your old conditioning where patterns came up from. Number 5, it doesn't address the mental side, the belief systems, the identity, and the things that reign true that you believe into your core. Number 6, it isn't sustainable long-term. Number 7, it doesn't account or adjust for bad days. So that way you don't have to be perfect. And number 8, it is not adaptable. So that's kind of like your little checklist of to know if you're making a mistake or not, or if you're following the wrong diet or plan or system. Because again, if it does not check all of those boxes, you will eventually gain your weight back and fall off. I've seen it time and time again. Like I said, when I work with people, I am very rarely someone's first coach. Most people come to me when they are at their rock bottom and they go, I've tried everything and none of it works. And then they're shocked to see as soon as we check all those boxes, how simple, practical, adaptable, and in most cases easy compared to what you were doing is. But that's the nature of the game. So I hope this was helpful. I hope this made you change the way you think a little bit. Now, if you just realize whatever plan you're on does not match all or any of those things and you would like to follow a plan that actually does, but you don't know how, like say you don't know how to do it, I actually have all of this in place with any of my coaching programs, whether it's a one-on-one thing or whether it is my coaching group, the collective, and I teach exactly how to do all of this inside those. So if you're in the place where you go, you know what, I think I am ready for that extra help. I am ready to make this happen. And you were basically describing me that whole time. I would love to see if what I do and what we do in my coaching business could help. So I'll leave all the links below if you want to either apply or get on the wait list for one-on-one coaching as far as like one-on-one work, but also I teach all of this stuff on like a really high level in my coaching group, The Collective. It's a little bit easier to get into. It's more affordable. And you can literally jump into it like right now. And I'll leave the link below and all the information for all that. Otherwise, that is it for today's episode. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for putting up with my sick voice. Otherwise, I will talk to you next time.